Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest SheLeadsTech podcast. I'm Marleen Mavrow, Director of ISACA Vancouver's SheLeadsTech portfolio. I'm here today with Anima Pokharel, the Senior Technology Auditor for Lululemon, the internationally renowned retailer here in Vancouver. It has set global trends in athleisure wear and famously outfitted our Canadian Olympic team for Paris 2024. Anima is from the beautiful mountain country of Nepal, where she obtained her bachelor's in business studies and earned her chartered accountancy. She began her career at Baker Tilly, Nepal, gaining a strong foundation in financial audit, compliance, and risk management. With a curiosity of IT, she veered into technology audit, working at Vidov Technology. Seeking international exposure, she moved to Canada, where she began a career as a senior technology consultant at Siberium, working there and then transitioning to Global Relay, gaining a deeper insight into data governance and cloud-based compliance solutions. From there, she moved to Lululemon. Anima is a passionate volunteer working at several organizations, including the Nepalese Chartered Accountants Students Association, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal, ISACA Global, the Nepalese Canadian Women's Society of BC, and she's the founder of COVID Emergency Page. She continues to sharpen her skills by obtaining information systems auditing and forensic auditing and fraud detection certification. Her CISA, that's ISACA's Certified Information Systems Auditor. She's an ISO 27001 Lead Auditor, and recently she obtained her MBA in Business Analytics. Please join me in welcoming Anima Pokharel.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I never heard entire introductions about myself so proper and like telling my entire resume in few words. Thank you for doing that. I'm really excited to have these conversations and share my experiences with you.
Oh, we're so pleased to have you here. You've got such a long list of accomplishments. So I'm looking forward to pulling people along the journey that you've had. But let's start with where it began, which is Nepal.
Right.
You graduated in Nepal with a degree in business management and accountancy, with your first jobs in audit and then focusing on technology. What inspired you to pursue a focus of technology?
So my career journey was kind of evolutions of like curiosity and let's say adaptability, because initially my background was chartered accountants and I started working as an external auditor with Baker Tilly, Nepal. And naturally, I started with financial audit, of course, but then I also had that keen interest in understanding technology. So what happened one day was like I was doing my audit in one of the commercial bank in Nepal, and then suddenly I was like, we are relying on all of the reports that were generated from the systems, and I was like, I'm not comfortable with whatever we are getting. I'm finding the difficulty to trust to those results. So I was like, why are we relying on them? Like, why? What does make it the report sounds completed or like it's accurate? I started asking or raising those questions, and then asking those questions really made me realize that the time is changing, the world is kind of moving towards the digitizations, and it's very critical for an organizations to understand the risk. So that curiosity kind of led me to ask more questions and then seek for my answers. So that's how I started my journey into the tech sector, which was like I joined Director of Technology in around 2018 or something. Which is Director of Technology is one of the first IT audit and SOC firm in Nepal. So there's this Nepalese saying where it says that "Badli do sansar sangai, badli de janu parsa," which means one must change with the changing world. So it's like such a good narrations that I have felt within, So with that narrations understanding its depth, I kind of thought I would jump into the technology audits. I didn't see anything like I was expert into certain financial audit, or like I have already spent so much time in financials, so I was not worried about that. So I was like, I directly jumped into the technology audit. And then at the time I was quickly able to see that gap, so there was kind of senior leaderships were kind of struggling to understand what the technology risks are, and the tech team on the other side were speaking a different language, like tech language or the coding language.
They
So
do, don't they?
yeah, exactly. So they could not effectively communicate what are the technology risks in their organization. So uh, I thought that why I won't be that bridge which kind of effectively initiate that conversations in between both of the worlds, so that business could not only embrace the innovations but also do it in a more secure way, I would say. So I think that was the realizations which kind of made me to transitions into the technology audit. And I would say that choosing a field like technology, which is like a ever changing subject, ever changing world on the technology side. So I think it was more about embracing the change. It was more about being open to learning opportunities. And as they say, that the best way to predict the future is just to be one of who creates it. So it's like for me, that was something which was about stepping into the IT audits. So yeah.
Wow, I love that saying from Nepal. I think that that's such a guiding spirit of for people to remember, and that sense of curiosity. I think that steered you really well. The other thing I took from that I really liked was uh, the business will speak one language, but technology sometimes speaks another. And you acting as that bridge, bringing them closer together is a beautiful thing.
Right.
I wanted to ask about women in technology. So despite making up here in Canada 40% of the workforce, the share of women in technology is a paltry 28%. And that's really stagnated at that level for the last 10 years. And just 9% are in leadership roles. That's according to the Information and Communications Technology Council report from 2024. So in Nepal, what were some of the challenges you faced as being a woman in technology? And were those challenges, do you feel they were unique to Nepal? Or did you see those sort of globally occurring as well?
Wow, that kind of opened lots of my flashback memories.
Flashback Nepal.
Yeah, I feel like I want to go home. So technology has, as you know, that always been emerging as a male dominated field, I would say, and Nepal was really not an exception to that. So when I stepped into the technology audit, I was among the very few women representative in the room. Or in my specific company, Vibe of Technology, I was one of the only women in the room where I was having meetings or discussions or even going to the client and getting involved in some kind of engagements. So I was like kind of representing alone at that time. And having that flashback to those times, I feel that one of the biggest hurdles I would see is getting credibility, having to prove my expertise every now and then. So
even as a woman, you felt like you
yes,
had to, oh shoot.
exactly. So it was like, I don't know, anybody didn't to say me anything, or like they didn't refer to anything specific, but then there was this unspoken bias in terms of technology is complex and it's like better suited for men, kind of those vibes that you get in your surroundings. uh, so I got that a lot of times, especially getting into the client engagements. But what if technology has given me this incredible opportunity by including me as part of the senior leadership conversations. So I was lucky so that I got that seat in the table where my voices were heard, my opinions mattered. So that was really something which I will be always grateful for the company. So although I was the only woman in the company, I got all the attention, of course, but not necessarily the representations I would want to see. So that was one of the challenges. And second, I would see as networking and mentorship. So when I decided to do this CISA certifications with ISACA, so I started searching for mentorship, like who could be my mentor, who could guide me regarding how would I be able to do this. And so I browsed through all of the chartered accountant lists that our board, Institutes of Chartered Accountants of Nepal, had maintained. And I could not see a single woman who has already done CISA with ISACA. So I was like, wow, that was disappointing and also an eye opening for me, because it shows that reality of how women in tech status is in Nepal. So at the time, I kept thinking, like, how do I be able to connect? Who would guide me? Like, who's the role model that I look up to? And then that was the moment where actually I connected with ISACA Global, and then I got associated with lots of volunteer activities with them. So yeah,
Okay.
I think being associated with ISACA was something where I opened up a world of connections and opportunities, and I could see, okay, there are other females who actually do CISA and is involved in the tech audits. And
Did you feel less alone at that point?
yes, exactly. That's the point. I was like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the first one.
Right.
That was the feeling. And um, I think coming to Canada, that's somewhere I realized that, okay, this is not the only issue of Nepal, because initially I used to think that having lesser representations in technology side, that's something which is very much unique to Nepal. But thinking it's a developing country and so, but no, after coming here and then being involved globally, I realized that this is something which is like a global issue, and then just the numbers that you shared kind of speaks to themselves. So
Yeah.
I think just the barriers manifest differently, but the core struggles in terms of breaking stereotypes, like being heard, or like being in the leadership roles, I think that's something which is like a similar issue in terms of what it was in Nepal and what's in here. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it has been always constant. So it has been changing a lot. I would say that women are really entering into the tech sector, and then they are actively working towards creating more opportunities.
Right.
And I think today I'm part of this podcast because I also wanted to share my journey, so that if at least one of the young women heard these conversations and she's like, if she can do it, I can also do it, then I think that would make a difference. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not just about getting a seat at the table. It's like pulling some more chairs so that they would also get a space alongside you. I think that's
I love that. Pulling in more chairs.
right.
And that is actually leadership right there. And that's a great segue into my next question, which is when you were in Nepal, you were already starting to foster that leadership spirit, lobbying for changes in the workplace to increase that representation of women. This year's theme of International Women's Day is accelerating action. Can you talk to us about some of the actions that you took in Nepal to increase the representation of women?
Of course. Like you said, the leadership is not just about having titles to your name, it's about actually taking actions at your workplace, at your home. And I think that's something which I have been witnessing and then doing myself. So when I joined Board of Technology, it was like I said, I was the only woman in the room who was into the leadership team. So it was great for the visibility, of course, but bad for the representation. So I realized that in the very early stage. So I decided to push for that change. So how I did that is, like, first I started advocating for more female participation in the company, and I was kind of part of the recruitment team where I insisted on hiring or giving equal opportunities to the women, because they have equal experience, they have equal educations. Then why not they equally get that opportunity? Just because there is that unsaid bias, why we need to bifurcate them and not select them during the interviews, or like they should at least get the chance to speak for themselves.
Right.
And And I remember we had this internship program in our company where there were around 50 students from different universities who we used to uh, graph for as in fresh graduates for the internship program. And then I thought that that is a right opportunity to kind of made a point where the young woman would kind of see and make sure that technology is not the space only for men. It's like a space for the woman as well. So I took that opportunity, and then I started being involved in the training sessions where I could properly convey that. And as I was part of the
Wonderful.
leadership team, yes. And I was part of the leadership team, so I made sure that we have inclusive policies, we have inclusive working space, anything which is necessary for a woman to just not just survive, I would say, but thrive in an organization. So I made sure that I put an effort into that from my side. And if I would say what I have seen the impact in the last 4 years of working in the world of technology, I would say that uh, before it was just me, and now it's like there are multiple women in the key roles. It's almost like 50-50 representations of male and female in the company right now.
Oh,
And
that's fantastic to hear. But I
yeah,
don't think they would have gotten there if they hadn't listened and allowed you to take some of those really important steps. Just in listening to you, there was several key ones, getting involved in the HR process so that you were there to help select the actual candidates, advocating for candidates based on their merit and not discounting them because they're women, you know, advocating for students so that we actually start at the funnel, at the beginning of the funnel,
exactly.
and getting people excited. Mentorship, all of these great things that you've done. These are great actions to take. So that's super.
Yeah, whatever I could do as a team, we did that. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And looking back, I feel proud of what I was involved and what I did as part of the team. So
Yeah, you should be. That's a legacy right there. Even though you achieved so much there, you decided to change the mountains of Nepal for the mountains of our West Coast here.
right.
You journeyed to Canada. Um, and when we were talking earlier, when I got to know you, you mentioned that a lot of your friends and family didn't think you'd be able to transition your career. That coming to Canada meant you're going to have to be in the service industry and to earn your stripes from scratch once again.
Right.
And I was horrified to hear that. So what is it? What made friends and family think that these amazing skills that you had wouldn't be transferable? Is there some sort of expectations that just because you immigrate, you can't immigrate with your skills? Maybe you can tell our listeners who might be thinking about this, who might not be in Canada or have just arrived here and thinking their skills aren't worthwhile.
Right.
Give them some encouragement. So maybe you could talk us through that.
Sure. Like you said, I do represent a lot of immigrant story who kind of get scared when they are moving from one country to another. And I was not an exception. I think everybody goes through this. So like you said, I was having a good career. I was having a good time of my life. And then suddenly I decided moving to Canada. So that was like a big switch from one to another. So when I started sharing that to my friends and family about moving to Canada, so I got different kind of reactions, I would say. Some were excited that I'm finally decided to move somewhere. But then there were also a fair bit of skepticisms regarding this is a bold career move. Are you fine with it? So there were
Hmm.
those conversations, but then there were some brutally honest people, I would say, who kind of warned me in terms of they were saying me that many professionals end up doing those survival jobs in Canada, be it cleaning or working in the restaurants, and that's something where you have to start with, because coming here as a student, coming here as a working professionals, it's like you have to start from the absolute scratch. So that was something which was very much horrifying to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would not lie to that. So it just really hit my ego, So I was like,
I
was
bet.
I really about to leave everything behind I had built and just to scratch something from the absolute scratch? So I was like,
Yeah.
so I had, of course, my moment of doubt at that time. And I also had this work visa to New Zealand at that time in one of the renowned audit firms. So I was like, is that the easier options? Is that the safer choice? Because I already had the job in hand. So my mind kind of start debating, like, should I go the predictable path or embrace the unknown? So I had those moments, um, to be frank. And then for me, moving to Canada was something which was more about expanding myself. It was more about getting that global exposure and
Yeah.
deeper expertise to what I'm doing. Plus, my family ties were associated in Canada. So I just felt that
Ah,
this is the right place to grow for me. Of course, the stakes were high, and some assured that I might land a job, and some assured me that you might not be able to achieve whatever you are allotted to. And to my reality, it's just been 2 years that I have landed to Canada. And before arriving to Canada, at least 2 months before, as far as I can remember, I kind of switched my LinkedIn location to Vancouver already. So I was in Nepal. It was like 2 months before I came to Canada. I
mhm.
switched the location to Vancouver, and then I started applying for jobs. So like I started networking with people. I started connecting with the market, like getting to the HR professionals or like making my LinkedIn strong, and
Ah, that's a good trick.
right,
Just getting that networking going before you
right,
even land.
right, just getting ready to what I'm supposed to see. And then to my fortune, I actually landed a job before I landed to Canada. So it's like I got this work as a senior risk consultant with Siberium. I mean, that's the first job I have in Canada. So I think that taking the leap of faith wasn't something bad that I would say right now. It was like I could redefine myself and then
Yeah.
start over fresh in new country.
Yeah, it sure helps when you have something to move over and land with. Um, I still think for a lot of people, it's pretty daunting, and it's courageous of you to do that, to make that transition to a whole other country. But I also really liked your tip about it's not just about the work, it's also about your environment, your social environment, the business connections, representing yourself within your new country in advance. I think those were really smart takeaways for people.
Thank you.
So in terms of then landing here, how has your um, growth here in Canada um, continue to develop compared to Nepal? Were there challenges in transitioning from the Nepalese tech sector and the sort of expectations, the work expectations there versus Canada's tech sector? Like, was there any sort of norms and expectations around risk management, sort of how people handed audit results? Were things very different, or did you find in terms of the technology and how people view technology, was it very similar between Nepal and Canada?
That's a great question. I think a bit hover around my mind. I think moving to Canada has been a game changer in my professional career growth, I would say, because this has been a biggest shift in my career. I would say it's biggest, even the one where I switched from finance to IT. So
Wow.
it's not just about changing the workplace from coming one workplace to another.
Yeah.
Uh, so the difficult part was adapting to the new work culture, to the industry expectations and mindset. So I did not see any changes in terms of how I used to work and how I work here. So like the working terms are similar because since I'm in the senior technology auditor positions, it means that I'm more involved in the tech side. So tech side is kind of growing on all over the globe. So the working mechanism, the way I work, the way I perform the audit tasks, so it's somewhat similar. So
Okay.
what's different is like the working culture, like how do you work? So in Nepal, there was kind of this hierarchy in terms of making the in terms of involving into the decision making. Whereas in Canada, I find it more collaborative approach, like speaking up is more encouraged in the organizations. So I had kind of this shift from approval based approach to being more proactive, or like having that discussion driven mindset in the workplace. And also, I'd say that in Nepal, my work almost used to speak for me. It's like, okay, this is what she have done. You have that communications around your surrounding. Everybody knows you.
Yeah.
So you're somebody who's like, okay, she's the best in what she does. So you get that vibes from your society, from your known ones. So you come from that mindset, and here when you get involved into the work, like nobody knows what you have seen or what you have done in your life. So it's like it's kind of challenging in terms of how you're going to put yourself in the market, how you're going to put yourself in the work culture that you have in your uh, work environment, and
Yeah.
so while I was struggling with so while I was doing my first initial part-time job, I found this networking also very much important, because here I realized that who you know can be equally important to what you know. So it's like who you know is equally important. It means that I need to know more people. So that's where I
Right.
started forming more relationships. And ISACA, of course, has been a pioneer to give me those kind of opportunities. And
Right.
that was when I realized that my worth is better than what I currently do. So I started switching from one job to another, I'd say. So it has not been something that I'm proud of, because I kind of switched. This is my third company, Lululemon, but then that's something which I have evolved into understanding myself. It's like it was
Right.
like toughest part for me to understand that what I deserve, what I'm getting. It's like getting that differentiations on the table and understanding uh, how to aim for higher and ultimately landing a job like a dream job, I would say, like Senior Technology Auditor with Lululemon.
Yeah.
So I would say that proving myself all over again has always been a challenging for me after moving to Canada. I think I am still doing that. I had to demonstrate my skills all over in the new market. It was like, I would say, every interviews I gave, that was like being part of the tech talk and then specifying what I did in the past, what I have done. It's like giving that talk every time and then just proving myself that this is how I began, this is where I am supposed to go. So
Right.
having that understanding was really something which is crucial for me, and I think I'm still understanding that, but so far aligning with the expertise with the Canadian expectations, that's something which will eventually help to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you had your second questions regarding if I have to share the tips with other people who are immigrants like me and then who are new to the Canadian environment. So, out of my experience, I would say that start before you arrive, like the way I did it 2 months before I landed. So, I think
Yeah.
updating the LinkedIn, researching the job market, and connecting with the professionals in the field, that's something which is really, really important. And also, another aspect I would say is unlearning and relearning has been like core aspects of what I do in my job. So, it's like adjusting to the new work environment and making sure, firstly, you know something, but then you like unlearn whatever you know and then start learning from the very start, be it the presentations of the audit reports or like the way you handle the
Right.
meetings. So it's like relearning every aspects of communication that happens within the working environment. That's something which is very much important to embrace. You cannot be in the ego, like, okay, I have been manager, I have done this, I have done that, like I'm already into this positions. You cannot have that attitude into what you are doing. You have to accept everything gracefully. That's very much important, because that's a shift of mindset from like being a manager and then being something in the senior positions. That's something which is really important. And
Yeah.
yeah, networking is like key to everything. Finding a place where you see like this is where you belong. Like for me, it was ISACA, so that's like a
Yeah.
game changer to everybody, getting to know the community where you belong. So of course, those would be the tips that I would give. And just there are moments of doubts and challenges being an immigrant, but you have to be persistent to what you do, and every obstacles will eventually grow into an opportunity. So
Yeah, I think you know what, the one thing I took away from that is it's not going to fall into your lap. You
true.
really have to have confidence in yourself. And gosh, you really exude that and it's wonderful. But not just having that confidence, you have to go after it in multiple, all the ways that you have described. And I think that that's really good for people to hear. Um, well done. That's such great adaptability that you're showing.
Thank
But I
you.
got to ask you, so now that you're in the sector in Canada, how is your experiences here versus Nepal in terms of inclusivity for women? Do you find it's very similar? Do you think Canada's a little ahead? Or do we have some things that we could learn from Nepal and how they're doing things?
That's a great question again. Um, I would say, in terms of gender inclusivity, I have realized that this is a challenge, not just in Nepal, but also worldwide. But then
Yeah.
throughout my life, I have primarily worked with the male managers or like male leaders in Nepal. So although there are more women who are entering into the tech sector, but then I could see that significant gap in leadership roles. So I used to find it fascinating and equally frustrating. I would say that every company in Nepal where I audited, I could see a CISO or a CTO to be a male. So it's like there was already something to be pre-understood that, okay, I'm going to meet a male person today if I'm going to have a meeting with CISO or a CTO. So
Yeah.
first time when I saw this female CTO in one of the commercial bank, I was like too happy. I was like, joy, because I was like, okay, finally I see a role model. So
Yeah.
I was able to see her as a role model, and that was that instant moment where I got to realize that I think this is what I am seeking, like seeing more leadership roles. So I think in terms of Canada, I would say that the representation here is like far ahead in terms of policies, in terms of representations, in terms of workplace, I would say, and especially in the company that I work, Lululemon. So I have a female manager there.
Yay.
Watching her every day is like already inspiring to me, because I often tell her this, that she may not fully realize that, but then seeing her as my manager is already something that I get inspired every day. So, and I could also see that there is lots of women representations in tech side as well, especially in Lululemon, where I could see that 50 to 70% female representation in the company as a whole, which is like a huge number. So every day you go, everywhere you go, you're like, okay, I see a female.
Yeah.
So you get to see that. So with Lululemon, it has been a complete different experience to what I was supposed to. But then I would see that Nepal is also progressing in terms of having that inclusivity of women. It's just that more women need to take up the key roles and the leadership roles. So uh, that's something which I could see evolving in Nepal, and something which is kind of getting its way a bit quicker in Canada. So it's like what I can see.
Well, that's really inspiring to hear. And I agree, like there's nothing better than having another female, particularly your boss,
Right.
to ensure that there's not as much imposter syndrome going around. But that said, you know, we haven't reached 50%. We still have a ways to go. But
Oh, I mean to
having
say only in Lululemon. So I could see that representation.
But isn't that inspiring? Like obviously
Exactly.
Lululemon has put fantastic
Right.
emphasis in creating that representation there, and so it can only be a beacon of what other organizations should look to and take maybe take some samples from them of tips of how to create a better balance in the workforce.
I agree.
So you've done a lot of growing in your career, not just getting your degree and saying that's done. When I look at your resume, you've done a lot of learning both in Nepal, but also here in Vancouver. Can you talk to the listeners here about how important that career growth and that emphasis on learning is, and what sort of mindset you had to have to help you push through and do all of these different certifications and things, and how it's impacted your career?
Thank you for asking that question. So my mom always tell me like, wouldn't you stop from doing any more certifications, or like, are you going to do that all your life? That's always my mom's question, because she could see that long list of my certifications, educations, and so I know what triggered me to that is 2018 when I moved from finance to technology. I kind of realized that if you are into technology, then you have to keep yourself updated. So that's when I
True.
kind of thought through that, okay, every year I will do some kind of certifications or get any qualifications. So from there, my journey started in terms of learning new things every year from different domains and from different prospects. So for me, I think growing up, I always had this growth mindset in terms of, I would say I'm always very ambitious. And I think that is the reason which brought me to Canada in itself.
Yeah.
So I've always seen this challenges as something which could be turned into possibilities, or let's say opportunities to learn. And it's like something you learn the most when things don't go according to the plan. That's like a essence of, you will get that essence of learning through that. So in
Right.
Nepal, I really learned that takes on how to drive changes in the place that you are, that wasn't quite ready to have it. And in Canada, I kind of learned how to navigate that new work cultures and networkings, and then getting new educations, like doing my masters, and then uh, getting involved in other certifications. So to be honest, like I said, that every job interviews that I did here, it felt like a mini TED talk of like where I had to prove I could not only do the job, but I could also survive on Canadian coffee. I think that's a different kind of fuel that I've learned here. So I think for me, growing is something which makes me resilient to whatever I do. It helps me to adapt what the future has to bring. So it's like I think moving into Canada and then getting aware of all the technology aspects over here, whatever is going around the tech environment, that's something which is not so straightforward. So initially I thought that, okay, now I have an old flip phone, and then in Canada I'll have a smartphone. But coming here, I got to realize that my old flip phone kind of turned into a spaceship. So here it was like, it felt more like getting a new pair of shoes, but then it looks great, but you have to get used to it. And
Yeah.
fortunately, I would say that Lululemon has given me that vibe in terms of working culture, and the team is very much passion to me, and they are giving me this opportunities to learn and do the all the unlearning and relearning aspects, and I found myself really thriving in that environment. So yeah, it has always been that growth mindset which I would say have brought me so far to where I am. And then I think everything is about, everything is not about the destinations, it's about the journey that you cover through. And for me, having the right mentorship, having the right family support has always been my backbone. Although my mother always said that you're reading a lot, she also made sure in my home that I do have that proper environment. And my dad every day calls me and say, okay, you have to make Nepal proud, you have to sign Nepal's name. He does that every single day. And my
That's
husband,
sweet.
yeah, and my husband is like, remember, you have to laugh at yourself in your journey, don't get too serious. So he just check on me every time so that I don't get frustrated in terms of how I'm juggling up with the new environment. So I think this family support and then the environment that I get to work with, I think that's something which have really pushed through me to get into a wonderful space that I'm at currently. But then,
Right.
yeah, I have a long way to go. That's just this beginning of what I'm intending to do. So, yeah.
It is a journey. I think that's really important. You said that because a lot of people think, okay, I'll just get this one thing and then I'm done. And that's not that's not technology.
Right.
Technology is always changing. So you, if you're in technology, also have to keep up and continuously learn. And that's exactly what you're doing. And it is overwhelming. So having that support from your family, that's wonderful. So that's I think it's, and if you can't get it from family, because not everyone has that, getting that from friends or from a networking group, however you can obtain that, that's great.
Thank you.
Um, so you're definitely still connected with family back home, which is wonderful. How about the Nepalese community in Vancouver? Are you connected at all with the Nepalese community here?
Yes, of course. I know Vancouver has been my home recently, but then, yeah, I also make sure that I do nurture the roots that I belong to. So I do join all the online forums, whatever webinars that I have back in my country, so that I stay updated in terms of what's going on around over there. Although it's not something that I would need in my work right now, but then that's the future which I'm seeing for myself, going back to Nepal and then just helping whatever I have learned through over here. So I'm obviously connected to whatever is going around there. We do have this WhatsApp groups for all the chartered accountants who are currently living in Canada. So that kind of
Great.
gives us the platform where we can share frustrations or give advice or connect with the board. And like you mentioned in the earlier introduction, that I'm currently board member of Nepalese Canadian Women's Society of British Columbia. We call it NCWSBC. So the year I landed to Canada, I joined that as a board member. And then I think that's a fantastic platform to just get involved with the community members, to know them, and then to support the aspiring students in this journey, especially women's, because it's like a women's society. And then for me, uh, the reason of joining this organization is more like a platform to give back to society and to just learn from the society as well equally. So you get that two-side approaches. Whatever you know, you give it back to the community, and whatever you want to know, you seek from the community. So that's basically the networking opportunities that I get, because coming here socially, staying socially alone, which is difficult. So it's like being
Mhm.
connected to the community. I think that's somewhere I have seen this organization doing work towards kind of bringing together all the Nepalese at one place, and then helping them celebrate all the events, all the festivals, occasions, and then also if they are like the first point of contact if anybody faced any issues, like be it a fire or be it like certain any emotional issues, like we are kind of creating that platform for all the young students or women who are currently working or studying here
Mhm.
in Canada, especially in Vancouver. And also I'm updated in LinkedIn with a lot of my prior local people, and just sharing my journey over here and seeing their journey, what they have been going through. That's also a point of motivation for me to see that Nepal is equally growing in so many
Mhm.
aspects. And yeah, that's how I'm connecting to my roots. And I would say that overall it's like tending to a garden, but no matter how I travel, I always water the seeds of the community that I belong to. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I really wonder if there's a connection there between having this community and the courage and the strength that you have as an individual, because I think, your roots and having that sense of community, however you make it, but a sense of community is so important for individuals to feel that they're not alone. And I love that you celebrate all the festivities together. I think that's wonderful.
We are having one festival today called Sivaratri. It's like all of the Nepalese people are today joining in Nepalese Hindu Buddhist foundations. It's like a beautiful occasion to celebrate. Yeah, that's how we do.
I would never have known that. That's beautiful. So I've got one final question for you, Anima. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self in high school to help to either change what you're doing or to reassure? But what advice would you give that younger girl in high school?
Wow. If I could time travel and go back to my high school, what I would say, I would start by saying that do not be intimidated by unknown, because embracing yourself and uh, learning from every mistake that you take, that's a better learning. In terms of, if you understand the failure, you would be understanding the importance of success. And there will be moments where you kind of feel out of place, or like there could be doubts regarding your potentials, like you are not aware whether you would be a chartered accountant someday or not, or whether you would be leaving the country. There could be some glitches in your journey, I would say. But if you keep that curiosity alive, I think you will continually be able to challenge your limits and then transform every error of the stepping stone towards success, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah, career is not always a straight line. It's winding road filled with twists and turns. uh,
Isn't that the truth?
yeah, each one has to just into the professionals that you are destined to become, and you have to stay confident to what you do.
I love that reassurance. It is scary when you're going through your career at times. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic news to give somebody. So if there's anybody, any of our listeners that are younger and just starting their career, rest assured it will work itself out. Thank you so much for your time today, Anima. You have given our listeners such fantastic advice. Your courageous journey, and all the steps that you've taken. I think those are very meaningful things that you've done to create the success that you find yourself with today. And I hope our listeners were able to take from that a number of steps that they can apply to their careers as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity today. I really feel blessed, and I really hope that listener would see some inspirations in my experiences, and they would be able to embrace that in their own challenges. I really, really hope that. And thank you so much once again. I'm very happy to participate.
We really appreciate it too. Thanks so much. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. This has been another episode of ISACA She Leads Tech. Cheers.
Yay.